Thank you for taking a few minutes with me today to review the results from our analysis. My name is Ben DeLuca from ABE Corporation, and I'll be addressing the questions you posed to us when we first met. As a quick recap of where we stood when we first met, your business is focused on helping families choose the right college for their children. In order to do that, factors such as debt their kids will incur, as well as graduation rates and post-graduation earnings, are important information to address when directing families. There are 3 questions that need to be addressed. Question 1 is, what is the average percent of students with debt at the colleges whose graduates have earnings in the top 10%? Question 2, will graduates from colleges located in cities have a higher graduation rate? And question number 3, what is the average ratio of cost to earnings at colleges not in cities? There were 5 variables that we looked at to ensure our depth of analysis, which we have listed here for your review. And we'll be sure to send this deck and our findings when this presentation concludes. So there's 5 variables: earnings, cost, graduation, grad, debt, and city. One thing of note is city is a categorical variable. So 1 is yes, 0 is no, not in a city, or yes, it is in a city. As with any data set, there will always be outliers, and the analysts need to account for these. Outliers can skew results, and we want to give you the most accurate data possible. You'll see on the left a box plot, and the box plot was created in order to identify values that were significantly above or below IQR. So a data point is an outlier if it's more than 1.5 times IQR above the 3rd quartile or below the 1st quartile. Overall, what the slide shows is that we had a robust data set, which should give you confidence in speaking to your future college seekers that the information that you're giving them is clean, meaning the absence of missing or outlier variables, and correlates to outcomes they can expect to see. So out of the 116 observations, there was less than 5% of missing data and less than 5% of outliers. So those missing and outlier variables were omitted from the clean data. This slide is a breakdown per variable that we ran. So in the categorical variables, there was 49 colleges in cities and 56 colleges not in cities, with the relative frequencies being 42.2% and 48.2% respectively. And for the other 4 variables, for earnings, cost, grad, and debt, we found the mean, median, modes, quartile ranges, IQR, and both the absolute and standard deviations for each. I'm not going to go into each thing specifically, but if you want to look more in depth, you would have the data set available to you. So we have more graphs here. So more students decide to go to colleges outside of cities. Cost could be a factor. And there's a high correlation of cost to earnings. By paying more for college, it does not guarantee a higher paying postgraduate job. As you can see by the red outlined between $20,000 and $30,000. Parents should not aim to pay more than $20,000 to $30,000 per year in tuition, as that's where most of the students are paying. Client question 1. What is the average percent of students with debt at colleges whose graduates have earnings in the top 10%? So how we figured out this question is that the data was filtered by organizing the data from smallest to largest. For the earnings variable, we found the number of students within the top 10% of earnings. Once those students were separated from the rest of the data set, the analysts found the mean of these students who are paying off debt under the debt variable. And our findings were, if you go to school where graduating students have earnings in the top 10%, you have an average of up to 90% debt. So you can see from the graph on the left is the top 10% of earners and the percentage of debt they have. And on the graph on the right is a 5-number summary of the top 10 earners and their average debt. a distribution range of the percentages of debt within a box plot. So you can see the highest is 98%, while the lowest is 82% of debt. Client question 2, will graduates from colleges located in cities have a higher graduation rate? The lead analyst found the number of students who attended colleges in cities. Then the lead analyst found the mean of graduation rate of students who go to colleges in cities. They did the same for colleges not in cities, and then they were compared. We found that the average amount of students graduating from schools in the city is higher than not in the city. The pivot table on the right shows the findings with a 1.96 difference in graduation rate, with city having an average percent around 67%, while non-cities have an average of 65%. Client question 3, what is the average ratio of cost to earnings at colleges not in cities? The lead analyst found the number of students who don't go to colleges in cities once those students are required. The analyst found the mean cost and mean earnings for these students. Once the means of these variables were acquired, the analyst divided the two means to get the cost to earnings ratio. So we have two graphs here. The left is the cost to earnings of graduates at colleges in cities, while the graph on the right is cost to earnings of graduates at colleges not in cities. And our findings were that cost is essentially equivalent, while earnings potential is slightly higher in schools in the city. So you can see by the clusters that in cities, it's around $45,000 to $60,000 in earnings, while not in cities, it's around $40,000 to $52,000, which is significantly lower. Key takeaways in our conclusions is while earnings potentials of the top 10% are appealing, what we need to watch out is that they do carry the highest debt of all students. A majority came out of city schools, but cost may be a factor for a student's decision. For question number 2, there's a 1.96 differences in students' graduation rates from students who attend colleges in the city versus those who do not attend to colleges in cities. While the rate favors the city schools, the percentage is minimal and may be worth considering other factors. City schools offer a higher income potential, with the difference being $5,000 to $10,000 more per year. That is the end of our presentation. I want to thank you for your time. And if you have any more questions, our resources are available to you. Thank you once again.